Banks here, Feel Free Kayaks Wild Side. One of the things that I've always done, growing up since a kid fishing is modify lures. And then I got into building my own lures, and the ones that I don't build, I usually will go to Just Fishing over in Virginia and purchase there. But there's mods you can do, and the latest trend is taking glide baits, trimming them, making them more user-friendly, more active, and actually more alive. I mean, who wants to go spend good money on lures that you're going to modify, but yet when you do, they become from good lures to great lures. And we're going to take a look at that process. Some of the lures are just really balanced out of the box, and the Bull Shad is one that I absolutely love, but there are mods you can do to it. We won't cover that today, but we're going to look at the 6th Sense Speed Glide. And what we're going to discuss, again, is one of the trends with it, and a lot of people don't talk about it. When I build wooden musky lures, I do a lot of things with them that are different than what's available. And when dealing with wood and different things like that, there's different tricks you can do, screw-on weights you can do, and they can do it in plastic if they chose to. But there's a lot you can do with it, and you've got a lay bend on this. But if you look at it real close, and you can see that gap edge there can come down, which is going to allow that bait to even swing even further. And that allows the bait from going from that erratic to almost turning around on itself. And that can be a deal maker with bass fishing. Now on musky fishing, and in this application here, you can see the rear hook, okay, is on the tail of the lure. On these Bull Shad bullgills, the hooks are placed differently. So therefore you have the tail back there, you have the action you want. Rather than leave this swinging around and dropping and falling on your paws, which becomes unnatural, you want to get it to stick out. On most musky baits we're taking, and we use heat shrink, there's different colors. You could use red for a hot spot back there if you wanted it, or go with the black. Again, it's kind of your choice. And really all you need is a little razor knife, a pair of split ring pliers, and with your split ring pliers, you would take your hook off, you would measure the amount that you need to come back and actually cover to the back of the hook bend. Then what we're going to do is we're going to slide this up in place tight to the rear of the lure. This is just to tighten the back hook, okay? And let's see what I got. I think I got a lighter in my pocket. No telling. With me, it's hard to tell. Yep. Okay, so here you've got a hook hanging out. You want to get it there, snug it up good, okay, as you can see. And I try and orient it how I want it. And then we're going to take that heat shrink and we're going to shrink it in place. Let it cool down. Don't want to get her too hot. Okay. Now, what you've got, you'll singe a little here and there. It ain't going to hurt nothing. Okay. You let that cool down. Now, when this lure does its swim and jive, it's going to stay with the tail. It's going to be natural. So there's one tip that we do. Like with the big snook fishing we did in Florida, the big bomber jointed. The joint was technically in the wrong place. And if you moved it forward 3/8 of an inch, reseal the lure, reattach the tail to it, it became a big Magnet S swimming lure. And those big snook and Sebastian Inlet, places like that, would just absolutely die for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the next mod, and I'm not going to touch this lure. I'm just going to keep it just to show the comparison. And this is a new trend today. This is winning big bass tournaments. A lot of good things going on with it. So again, what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to get gutsy. Slide these over a little bit. And what I'm going to do is where this curvature is, I want to eliminate it because it's coming around and hitting it. And the swag on the lure itself, it just takes away from. So you can take your hooks off if you want to make it easier for you know, whatever you choose to do. I like using a hacksaw. A lot of guys are recommending using a Dremel with a rotary cut blade. It'll work good, or using grinding bits, any of that. But I actually like to just get my measurement of it, and I'll start that cut. Yeah, brand new lure, I'm cutting it up. What the hell's wrong with me, huh? Anyhow, you want to get it right, but you don't want to hit the blade into the metal attachment, you know, in your center of your lure for your pivots. You can ratchet it a little bit and you'll get away with it. But it's pretty interesting, the end result of this. And I'll show you that in just a second. It's like working on the railroad, ain't it? The things we do to catch big bass. And you heard that little ratchet sound, and boom, there she is. And if you look at that cut in there, we haven't cut a hole in the body. There's no hole in there. But yet, that's without the cut. That's with the cut. I guarantee you this lure is going to turn onto itself, and a giant bass triggers and picks up on them things. And if you've ever seen a bluegill get chased and watch how they swim, it is super impressive. The intelligence is just incredible. I had a trip with a client on the St. Johns River, and we watched a bluegill circle a lily pad. There's like 5 pads in it, one little plant. And he was circling, and all of a sudden he jumps sideways flat, lays up on the leaf. Turns around, he lays there as flat and still as he can, and you could see the water trembling all around it. This big bass circled 3 times, went out about 10 feet, turned around and charged, and literally folded the leaf over that bluegill and took it. And it was one of the neatest things that I ever saw. I was so into it, I was too stupid to cast. But I did learn something. It's like bass, they will tail. They'll get up on these edges of these deeper reservoirs. They'll get cruising those edges. You'll actually see them rooting around tailing. So it's very, very interesting. So we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, and we're going to cut it as well. And again, you just got to watch these hooks. I prefer this method over a rotary tool. It's cleaner, it's neater, it works a little bit better to me, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion. And then you're saying, well, Ricky, you're cutting through the coating of the paints that are put on this lure. Yeah, I am. And that's okay. Wounded baits work, man. We used to fish for some of the snook when the bluefish ran, and they'd bite the mullet in half and the port. And so we started taking the back half off of lures and catching those snook. So again, very, very interesting as to what was going on, you know, and how it worked. But it's all stuff that you can do and capitalize on to improve your fishing game. The other thing that I do, you know, again, going back to the paint coating, oh my God, you're cutting through the paint. What are you doing here? It is easy. I use the clear coat nail polish like I do on my jigs. And what I'll do with them is I take the clear coat and just tack it right along the edge of these where I'm cutting them. Get that hook out of my way. There it is. You heard it touch the metal. Not going to hurt it a bit. You can see those cuts are fairly well uniform. Okay? You can come back and clean it. You can use your X-Acto knife and actually do just a little bit of trim edge to it just to knock it down. This is the edge here that has the paint coating. And on that edge, what I'll do is just kind of trim that little loose, you know, cut plastic. And then I'm going to come back And you can use a little piece of sandpaper, just kind of buff the edge. But then you put that clear nail polish on it, and boom, you are in business. And here's your difference. Okay? There's out of the box, and there's modified. So you tell me which one you want to throw. And again, look at the heat shrink on that hook. When this lure does its jiggly pop and it stops, this drops. Okay? Yeah, it can have an action in it, and occasionally it will trigger a strike. This is natural, and this is what you want to be throwing. And again, look at the bass circuit. There's some people fishing this and getting involved now with more of the glide style baits. Technically, it's deriving or coming over from the musky world, and at the same time, the saltwater world. We built for many years a lure called a Sea Drifter, and it was more of a shad Manhattan style bait, and it's a straight bait, not jointed, but it has a weight and balance system in them, so when you do your S-turning and stall, it does a dying flutter as it falls. That's another trigger mechanism to this style of bait. So if we ever get one of these to do that dying fall, or that dying flutter, you're going to have a deadly bait. And I promise you this, in July I start building my lures again once I get everything settled in, and I'm going to take that Sea Drifter, which is the dying flutter bait, create a joint in it and still get that dying flutter. And that's going to be my #1 project this year. So this is Captain Rick Banks, Feel Free Kayaks Wildside, and this is what we have for our tip this month. So enjoy. And always wear your PFD when you're out in these kayaks right here. Very critical. You don't know what's going to happen. Several people have lost their lives unnecessarily. So again, you know, do the safe thing. Y'all take care, and hope this helps somebody. And I look forward to doing, and y'all let me know in comments if you want to see a video on how I build wooden lures. I do my own fish taxidermy. If you want to see a video on doing a fish mount, I have a couple bass that I am going to be doing mounts to, as well as some big brown trout. And I'd be more than happy to sit down and put the cameras when I do my processes, condense it, and put it out there. So all of it won't happen overnight, but we will do it. Y'all take care, tight lines. Captain Rick out.